Okay, we are live. Good morning. My name is Attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret: How to Fight CPS and Win. This is a Sunday edition of our show, and I'm joined by a very special guest, Sonia Blackbear. Sonia, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank
Good.
you for having me.
Well, thank you for being on, agreeing to be on an early Sunday morning show. A lot of people will still be in bed, but hopefully they'll catch the rerun. This is
Yes.
streamed to 8 different social media platforms, and the videos stay up, I think, indefinitely. So you can always catch the show and watch it. So this show is about CPS, and I guess since we've never met or talked, you've had some interaction with CPS. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, what state are you in?
I'm in South Dakota.
South Dakota. Okay. When I was in law school, I worked for a professor who had very close ties to the Dakotas, and helping folks there with, I guess, pro bono type of legal work. And one of the things that I noticed, although I never went with him on a trip to the Dakotas, one of the things that I mentioned that I saw a lot were that both the Dakotas had a large not African American, American Indian population.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
Now I'm just going to guess by your last name. Are you American Indian?
I am.
Okay. And in CPS cases, there are special laws that apply to American Indians,
Yeah.
specifically the Indian Child Welfare Act, ICWA. Did you know that?
I do. I
Okay.
knew.
Are you a member of a tribe?
I am.
What
I'm a
tribe?
member. I'm a member of Cheyenne River Sioux tribe.
And is that located in South Dakota?
Yes, it is.
Okay. How big is the tribe?
I I'm not really sure, but I know that Ogallala might be bigger than Cheyenne River.
Hmm. Is your tribe involved in the gaming industry at all?
No.
Okay. I've noticed over the years that tribes that are involved in the gaming industry, have a lot of resources. And sometimes they affect or get involved with these juvenile dependency cases on a larger scale. And I was just wondering if it was. Do you think it's because of the resources they have availability to?
I believe so.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, why don't you tell me your CPS story and start from the beginning, and let's try to do it in the chronological order.
Okay. My grandchildren were removed in June of 2022. And the allegations were that I had abused them, and I was a meth user and had meth in my home. I drink every day with my adult children. Um, and then in August, my other three grandchildren were removed, and for them, I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe it was because the three other ones were removed. But ICWA was informed, and they had jurisdiction over the children. They intervened, but they did not transfer. Um, well, I asked one of my granddaughters had gotten a picture from one of the other grandchildren, through a social media, and it was of my 14-year-old granddaughter in bed with a boy in the foster home, um, with panties and a t-shirt on. I had told the caseworker I wanted my grandchildren removed from that home and placed back in Rapid City where I'm at. Um, she had told me that they would be removed. They hadn't been. The caseworker and I do not have a good rapport, with the lies and things that she's telling about me. I was placed on random UAs, including alcohol. Um, I'm not a drinker. Haven't been a drinker for over 20 years. I've never used drugs. I don't even smoke cigarettes. But I think the stereotyping that they do here in this town is that Native Americans, they're drunks. They do drugs. They abuse kids. There's a lot of abuse in the families, which there's some of us that don't have any of that abuse in our homes, but we're still stereotyped for it. Um, I asked that my grandkids be moved back here because of the picture, and they said they would. Well, in this January, I got my granddaughter had a visit with their mother, and they had told their mother that they had been raped while in foster care. I had called not called. I only email and text the caseworker. I do not talk to her personally, and I won't because I don't trust them, anything they say. I had told her about the incident. She knew. She said that she had questioned the girls, and it was a consensual sexual encounter with a boy their age. And I asked her if she was going to move them back, and she didn't answer me. Well, I had called on January 20th. I had called the police department of where these kids were in the foster home at. And I had told him my concerns that this happened in a foster home. And he said that they would start an investigation and asked me where the kids were. The kids are in Rapid City now because of, I believe because of this incident. They removed them from the foster home and placed them back in the city where I'm at. And I had reported that to the police, and I had told her in an email I had reported it to the police. The state and the caseworker should have reported it. It's a crime. They should have reported it, and they didn't. She told me that she reported it to the Rapid City Police Department, and a forensic interview would be if it was necessary, they would do one. I called the Rapid City Police Department and I asked them if it was reported, and they said no, it wasn't reported. The only thing reported was through Aberdeen, and Aberdeen asking Rapid City to for assistance in locating these children. And that's the only communication Rapid City had with this case. And then I had mentioned this to her, to the caseworker, and she had not replied back to me, and she had quit replying back to me. I also called, since I am a mandated reporter for my job.
What do you do? What kind of job do you have?
It's called the Rapid City Family Project here in Rapid City that I helped found. It's a program with Indigenous Native American children that are that have trauma, childhood trauma, and I facilitate 2 families, 2 children, and their parents on sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and now I will be taking a job in Pine Ridge, doing the same as I am here in Rapid City.
Did you found this before this case started or after?
Before,
Okay.
and the children and I helped establish the program with other parents and their kids, where we had it was a project that we were trying to see if the Native American community would be interested in a program like this, which they were. So that's what I do.
I'm sorry for interrupting you. Please
Yes. Fine.
continue. Please continue with the story.
Okay. So I'm a mandated reporter. I called the child protection and had in peer and had reported this incident to them. And I had told them the caseworker and her supervisor and the regional supervisor all had known that my granddaughters were there. And I had asked them back in July to please Yeah, please remove my grandchildren from the home. And I've been asking since. I think I've asked about maybe 6 or 7 times that they remove my grandchildren from that home before this incident, before the rape of these children. I don't believe, they keep telling me it's consensual, but they're 14 years old. Consent is 16. So it is a crime, and I believe they should have reported it and taken my grandchildren to the hospital
Right.
to have them examined and, you know, make sure there's no STDs and all of this. They hadn't done that either. In an email, I had told her I wanted the children to be taken to the hospital, but she hasn't replied.
So this is something that happened recently?
Yes, I reported this January 20th, but my granddaughter had reported the foster parent had telling the children they can have boyfriends, they're allowed to have boyfriends, and when they're ready for sex to let her know so she can put them on birth control. And this was back in August that I was told this information. That's what I was telling them. I wanted my grandkids back. And then there was a picture circulating of one of my grandchildren in bed with a boy with panties and a t-shirt on, and she's 14. And then again, I asked them, please remove my grandkids from this situation.
Let me stop you for a second because there's a couple things I need to fill in.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, in California, the age of consent is 18. You have to be an adult. Now, are you telling now I'm aware that in some states it's different law. So
Mm-hmm.
you telling me in South Dakota the age of consent is 16?
Yes.
Okay. But if the child is under if the person is under 16, there can be no consent.
Yes.
Okay. I did a case here in Los Angeles County where the defense attorney told a judge that it wasn't rape, it wasn't sexual abuse, because my client, the younger kid, you know, it was consensual. And the judge asked me, "Well, how old is your client?" I thought he was a minor. I said, "He is a minor, Your Honor." And this happened several years ago. And at the time that this incident happened, he was maybe 9 or 10. And the judge looked at, and then this was doing what's called a mandatory settlement conference. The judge looked at the other attorney, and he was getting visibly disturbed, and he asked me to leave the room so that he could have the talk with the other attorney. Basically, I don't know what they talked about, but I gather it was the judge telling him that it was probably the stupidest thing for him to say, that it was consensual because minors can't consult. And I would guess, I'm not sure, but I would guess it's the same thing in your state. Just
I believe so.
by the way they're acting and trying to sweep it under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, through this practice of law, one of the issues that comes up in these cases is, generally is abuse. And you would, I don't know if you would be, but I was shocked to learn how abuse that happens to children, how it affects them their entire lives.
Yes.
Their entire
That
lives.
is what I had told them too.
Yeah. So I hope that, well, first, the other thing I wanted to find out is, now you've talked about the kids being taken out of your home. Generally, in California, you can only take kids away from parents or legal guardians.
Mm.
So if you remove them from the grandparents' home, the grandparents actually have to go to court and get what's called legal standing to participate in the case and to exercise rights to try to get the children back. Is it the same in your state?
Um, I believe it is, but I did have custody of these children
How did
through
you how did you
through
have
the tribes,
Oh, through the tribes.
through
Okay.
2 different tribes. Yes.
Okay, so you had custody through the tribal court.
Yes.
Or no, let me get this straight. Since you had custody through the tribal court, those courts, those tribal didn't want to intervene and transfer the case back to the tribal court?
No, at the beginning they didn't want to. They wanted to see you have to have your rights terminated before they transfer. So I believe that they were trying to do it after my guardianship rights were terminated. Then they were going
Okay.
to transfer.
Okay, so you had guardianship through the tribal court.
Yes.
Okay. So that's why CPS is treating you basically like a parent.
Hmm. Yes.
Okay, I got it. Now,
Yes.
where excuse me, where are you in reunifying with the kids, getting them back in your custody? You've told me that you've been testing clean
Hmm.
and that the allegations were against you were alcohol and drug related.
Yeah.
Whether they're true or not, if you start testing clean and showing the court that you're not using drugs, most courts are compelled to return the children to you. Um, if that's not happening, can you tell me why?
Well, we had went to court, and I wrote the judge a letter of what was happening with the children, and she the last court hearing she had postponed it to February 10th. So her and all the attorneys can look at the statements that I've written. She said they were concerning, and then I wrote her another one on Friday because of the rape of my grandchildren. And I'm not sure what's going to happen, but this social worker has told the foster parent that this happened to, that she was going to help them adopt my grandchildren. And this foster parent still has communication with my grandchildren.
Okay, well, hold on a second. You don't have to write this down because you can go
Mm,
back and look at this. But I'm telling you right now, talk to your attorney and consider filing a federal complaint.
okay.
Okay? And you file it with the Department of Health and Human
Oh,
Services.
I've done that.
Okay. You have?
Yes, I have.
Have they contacted you?
Not yet.
Okay. The other thing that you can do is you can file a complaint with the Department of Justice,
I've done that.
Civil Rights Division.
Yes.
Okay. Have they contacted you?
Yes.
Oh, they have.
They have, and they had told me in the email that they've got many cases like this.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, they cannot take my case. They
Hmm.
have thousands of cases like this, and my complaint doesn't lack merit, and they would consider giving me um, what do they call it? Justice um, attorneys that I can
Mhm.
contact. They give me a pro bono attorney numbers, and they gave me other numbers and other people to contact.
Now, let me tell you this. Whenever the Justice Department makes a decision that you're not happy with,
Hmm.
you can appeal it to a higher official or administrator in that department. Did they
Hmm.
give you the appeal information?
They haven't.
Okay. You might want to contact them and ask them.
Okay.
Okay. How long ago was it did you filed your HHS complaint?
It's been last Monday.
So it's relatively
Yes.
recent. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, they actually take action and do investigations in cases like this.
Hmm.
You know, if you are, and I can imagine they have a lot of cases as well. But definitely keep on top of that. Now, there's in your state, is CPS run by the county or by the state?
I believe the state.
Okay. So what you should do is what's your capital?
Pierre, South Dakota.
Pierre?
Yes.
Okay. So what you should do is you should contact the head office in your capital. And what I would do is just cut and paste the same complaints that you've already filed and
Hmm.
file with them as well.
Okay.
Okay. The next thing that I think you should concentrate on is your attorney. Now, do they give you a court-appointed attorney in South Dakota?
Yes, I have a court-appointed attorney. She has missed appointments. She doesn't really speak with me. Only before court, like 5 minutes before court, and then she'll tell me. I asked her in an email, "What is your strategy? Are you going to help me get my grandkids back? What are we doing?" Because everything is, all my contact with DSS is through email. And she said, the court case is moving along and you are arguing back and forth with the department. I said, no, I don't believe I'm doing that. I believe I'm trying to explain to them and like stick up for myself and my grandchildren. It's not arguing.
Have you had what's called the jurisdictional and dispositional hearing yet?
Um, I
It's to
don't
de- it's to determine whether the allegations against you are true or false.
no, no.
Okay, so that's going to be obviously a very important hearing, and you and your attorney need to be on the same page.
Hmm.
I don't know if your relationship with your attorney is beyond repair, but if it's getting there, there's something that you might want to consider, and that's consulting another attorney in your state, and you may have the opportunity to make a motion to request a different court-appointed attorney.
I have done that.
Oh,
Yes,
you have?
I have. Yeah.
And what has the judge ruled on it yet?
Not yet. I don't believe she's gonna till February 10th.
Okay, so
And
coming up pretty quick.
yeah.
Okay.
Another thing I wanted to tell you is that these twins are reporting inappropriate touching by the foster mother. And they had told their mother that they didn't want to go back to her. They didn't want to talk to her, but she's still talking to them. She talks to them like she's in a relationship with them. She touches them like she's in a relationship with them. And she had told them that the CPS caseworker is going to take them back to where they were and help the foster mother adopt them.
Do you have any other relatives or friends?
Every time I take a name to them, it's their background check never passed. Yeah, I don't have anybody. I had friends that went there, and all of them, nobody passed their background.
Okay. I mean, is that something that's real? I mean, they had problems with their background, or something the CPS is making up?
I think CPS is making up some of it, and
Okay.
then I know a couple of them wouldn't pass, but they still tried.
Okay. So let's do this. You should make a list of 25 friends and relatives
Okay.
that could take the children.
Okay.
All right. Now, I would not put anybody on the list that had a criminal conviction,
Okay.
because it's harder for them to get the kids. Not impossible, but harder,
Hmm.
depending on the conviction.
Yeah.
And I would put their name, address, telephone number, and their relationship to the child. And if
Okay.
it's a family friend, it's a family friend. Now, here's the key part. Here's the really important part. They don't have to live in your state.
Okay.
They can live in another state. And technically, they could live in another country. Where I am located in Southern California, there's a lot of cases that come up with Mexican nationals, right?
Hmm.
A few years ago, I was involved with a case with placing kids in Switzerland. Okay, so these kids can be placed anywhere. There's something called the interstate compact for the placement of children. There's also something called an intrastate, meaning within the state. But there's something in federal law where there's international placement of children. And the name of the law escapes me. It's a treaty. It's a federal treaty, and America is part of the treaty with many other countries. Not every country, but many other countries. So you're not limited, right? And here's one of my theories and strategies. When you put on people that are local, that's good. But when you put on people that aren't local, that's good too. You know why? Because out of 25 names, there's no way that they could possibly decline all 25. There's no way,
Mhm.
right? Because, you know, you're a smart woman, you're putting on people that can pass. So they actually have to do a background check. And by law, at least in California, and I would guess in your state, they have to report those results to the judge.
Mhm.
So the judge will know. Now, imagine you're a judge in the CPS court, juvenile dependency court. You only know what the social worker tells you,
Mhm.
and you're going to assume that the social worker is telling you the truth, right?
Yes.
No reason for you to not believe that.
Mhm.
But when you start hearing other information, you're going to get kind of concerned as the judge because ultimately, whatever happens to these kids, it falls on the judge's shoulders,
Mhm.
right? And I'm sure if she continued a case because she has concerns, there's a good reason because ultimately your judge is responsible. Now, the other thing that I would keep in mind, and you don't have to really discuss this with anyone right now and, until you get the kids back, but these kids and you have serious legal claims against your county or state and these social workers. Um, Based upon what you've told me, if it's true, the conduct of this social worker is reprehensible. She shouldn't even be doing this job if that's what she's doing with these kids.
Yes.
And I would gather to say, I would guess to say, this is not the first time
Mhm.
that there's other victims out there that maybe, didn't have a family to raise a fuss about.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you've been watching in the news about that African American guy back in was it Tennessee who got killed by five other cops.
Yes.
You've been watching that story.
Yeah.
See, it's all over the news, right?
Mhm.
Five other black cops.
Yes.
Well, now they're starting to ask who were the other victims because now they're guessing that this isn't the first time that happened with these cops.
Mhm.
And I would guess to say the same is true with your social worker.
Mhm.
And that means either your social worker doesn't know the law or she's just callous and indifferent. It's
Well,
one of the other. It's one of the other.
yeah. She had spoken to Ikwa on my reservation. Ikwa, after the rape of my grandchildren, was going to transfer. She had told me she's going to get the paperwork and transfer these kids. The other tribe, Ikwa, had told me the same thing. Well, this caseworker had told them that the kids were afraid of me and didn't want to come back to me. So Ikwa is setting up a meeting with the kids on Tuesday to speak with them and to see why they're scared of me and don't want to come back.
Yeah, because and then they'll find out it wasn't true.
Yeah,
And if the tribes find out it's not true, that social worker is in big trouble.
yeah, yeah,
So I'm sure the tribe's not going to stand by for that.
yes. And I believe this worker has other things in mind, like adopt. She's talking to their mothers like she wants to adopt all my grandchildren. One of the
Well,
mothers is in prison.
well, first of all, in California, I don't know if it's the same in your state. If you're, I think it's 12 years old or older and don't want to be adopted, you can't be adopted. Is
Hmm.
it like that in your state?
I believe so.
Yeah. So there's a cutoff. And, how is she going to convince these 14-year-old girls that they should be adopted?
She has convinced. She has convinced them. She's told them things. If you tell what happened in the foster home, I'll take you out of Rapid City, and you won't come back to Rapid City. So I believe these kids are afraid to say anything. I haven't visited these kids since December 19th. And each time a visit is coming up, it's always canceled or they can't make it or They're afraid of me.
Well, that's interesting because it's, part of the cover up by the social worker.
Yeah, I
And
believe so.
you should continue to report this to HHS and Department of Justice because new things are happening.
Mhm. Yes.
Things are getting worse. And you would think that the social worker would back off. You would
Mhm.
think that. No.
No,
Dou- Double
her
down is the theory.
yeah,
Triple down.
her supervisor and the regional supervisor, she said she stopped it with them, and they were in agreement to leave my grandchildren in the foster placement they were in.
What you should probably do is, in California, if you have a problem, a systemic problem with the county, you can actually make a motion to have the state come in and take over the case. That means state attorneys and state social workers. Now, in
Mhm.
your state, you have state already.
Mhm.
But you should talk to your attorney about making a motion to have some other agency take over the case, or at the very least, get it out of that social worker office into another office and make the office in the next town take over the case with
Okay.
the lawyers from the next town.
Mhm.
Because obviously there's a problem going on where you are with that social worker, the supervisor, and the regional administrator.
There was a case back in 2019, January 17th, no, July 17th, 2019, where a case where my granddaughter was taken, and her mother didn't want to release her to me, so they took her into state custody, even though I did have custody through the tribe. And my oldest granddaughter was 17 at the time. They had taken her too, and two of her other, well, altogether four of them. And the my granddaughter was crying, "Nana, don't you want us?" I said, "Yes, I do. I'm out here waiting for them to bring me the paper so I can sign." And she said, "Well, they're laughing at you, and they said you're a lying Indian bitch, and they won't give you any kids." So I had complained that she had called me an Indian bitch. And
Wait a minute, wait a moment. The same social worker?
no, not the same one,
Oh,
but the
okay.
same supervisor. Then the supervisor was my caseworker. But before she became my caseworker, there was a non-native caseworker supervisor. And then after I had complained that she called me the Indian bitch, she put a native on my case. And the native now is the supervisor. And I believe this is stemming from back when I did a complaint in 2019. And I had written the judge this in a letter, and he had released my grandchildren back to me at the hearing that we had where they were going to continue placement, but he placed them back with me, and I believe it was because of the way they were treating me.
Right. Yeah, I get it. Um, did you consider a lawsuit back then?
I complained. I called the peer office and complained. Back then I don't know what I know now, because I watch a lot of your YouTube things where I'm getting all of this from, where the DHHS complaint. This is all where I got to get it from. Back then I didn't know anything, so I didn't sign any. I didn't complain to the right people, I guess. And I hadn't started a lawsuit back then.
Are you what do you think about lawsuit now?
I want to. I really want to, because these, like you said before, some she could have did this to other kids. Got other kids adopted,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, she could have done that to a lot of other kids. I know one of my sons had lost his child. um, they adopted his child. And I asked the judge, same judge I have now, if they would place my granddaughter back with me. I never did get a reply, although I went to the courts and sat there waiting. I mean, after the courts were over, I was hoping they would call me in, read my letter, and call me in, and it didn't happen.
Okay, so you know this, Sonia. In order for you to get an action from a judge, you really have to do something which I haven't heard you say you did, especially concerning that grandchild.
Mhm.
You actually have to file a petition or make a motion. You writing a letter to the judge,
Mhm.
technically, at least in California, the judge isn't even supposed to read it
Mhm.
because you're not even a party to the case.
Now I understand that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So standing, I was talking to someone in my office recently, just recently, about the issue. No, no, it was on the show yesterday. It was on the issue of standing, and I kind of got the feeling that I was being poo-pooed and not really listening to the lady's complaint. Lady had a great case. Problem was, in my humble opinion, she had no legal standing. So you have to establish the standing. And just like in her case, you can always establish the standing, but you have standing right now of these
Yes.
grandkids because you're the guardian through the tribal courts,
Mhm. Yes.
right? So
And I'm sorry
go
to
ahead.
interrupt you. I had asked my lawyer to file a 388, and
Well,
she
there's
said,
no, well,
yeah,
there's no 388 in your state. It's
she
called
had told
something
me.
else. It's called
Mhm.
something else. 388. I tell that to people all the time.
Yeah.
388 only applies to California.
Yeah.
There is something in your state. It's just called something different, and might be a 999, it might be a
Yeah.
50 or a 101. Who knows? You got to
I
find
asked
out.
Yes, I asked her if she can find a like 388, and she said we don't have nothing in South Dakota that is like a 388.
You can verify that by talking to another attorney in your state. And also, Cassandra Woodard, one of our hosts, has talked about this twice on the live streams that we do. There's actually on the internet a website that will convert one statute, Welfare and Institutions Code Section 388, to the like or similar statute in your state.
Mhm.
Um, for the life of me, I can't remember that website. When I needed it, I just messaged Cassandra. But
Mhm.
if I don't know if Cassandra's listening, she's probably still asleep this morning. But I'll ask her, and I'll try to post it tomorrow on the show at 7 p.m. because
Okay.
it's such a helpful website. Obviously,
Mhm.
because we're in California and people watch all over the country. You
Yes.
know, and they'll probably want to know, well, what's that statute in my state? But here's the thing: in even in California, if you couldn't file a 388 at this time because it's filed after the disposition hearing. And from talking to you, I'm guessing you haven't had the jurisdictional and dispositional hearing.
No.
So in order to get things that you want, you have to file other type of motions. And I'm sure that, as in most states, if you're English common law state, which I think you are, you
Mhm.
can file motions, and you need to talk to your attorney about that. And again, if you're not getting the love from your attorney that you believe that you should have, you got to talk to other attorneys in your state.
Mhm.
It's very important. Um, Not only what you do, but what your attorney does or doesn't do is going to control what happens in this case. So you should definitely be talking to attorneys. Unfortunately, not a good use of your time generally, but yeah,
Mhm.
you should get more information. The other thing, and I not never, but I rarely advise people of this, but I would advise you of this. I would advise you talking to a civil rights attorney, and maybe filing a case now.
Okay.
Generally I tell people, wait till after the case.
Mhm.
But so much is happening in your case; it's getting more and more convoluted and complex.
Yeah.
And the social workers, are doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down on you. You're going to have to let them know that you're serious. Nothing
Mhm.
like a federal lawsuit to let them know that you're serious because, generally speaking, federal judges don't play.
Mhm.
They don't play.
Okay.
And I don't know the geographics of your state or where you are. Is there a federal courthouse near you?
Yes, it's in the city. Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. You don't
Yeah.
have to travel a long ways. You know,
Yes.
sometimes you meet people and, you know, they're like 300 miles from the nearest federal court.
Hmm.
That can be a problem.
Yeah.
But, you know, try to find a civil rights person in your area because it's best in your area. You know, if you do, I don't usually do this, but if you have a problem finding a civil rights attorney, I mean, we do civil rights as well, cases against CPS, but there's a guy, um, I won't mention his name, but he's one of the gurus of this in California, and he does go to other states. If you're having problems, I might put the two of you in contact with each other
That would
because
be nice.
this is the kind of thing he wouldn't let go of this.
Hmm.
I mean, you know, that's the kind of guy he is. When he sees injustice being done, he's all over it. And I think injustice is being done to you. Well, Sonia, we are coming to the end of our show. I want to thank you for coming on this Sunday morning and sharing your story and what's happening to you. Unfortunately, I hear these stories all the time,
Hmm.
you know, and just, you know, kind of hurts that these families are being treated this way.
Yes, it does hurt. I've cried many nights. I'm in a
Mm.
5-bedroom home and it's empty. I don't have no kids here. Just and I believe they were hoping I would lose my home, but I'm working. I'm on disability. They were hoping I would lose my home so I wouldn't have a place to bring my grandkids back to.
Mm. So that was even part of their strategy as well.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. You know, it wasn't an issue, not really an issue recently, but when I first started doing these cases, you know, 30 years ago, one of the strategies was that if they take your kids, you would lose your federal housing
Hmm.
money. And there was something called Section 8. But to have that Section 8, you had to have the kids.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's changed or if more people just aren't on Section 8 anymore. You know, I don't know. It hasn't been an issue in a long time. But
Yeah.
that whole, you know, I guess they'll come and they'll attack you any way they can in order to win this case, in order to protect children.
Yep, they have, and they still are attacking me
Yeah.
constantly. Now they have the police. Police come to my house. They said they want the police to um, come into my home 24/7, anytime they want to make sure I'm alone. And there's nobody else in my home.
Well, is that a court order?
No.
Then how would they want to, or why would they want to even do that?
Well, I have an email where she said that's what they want to do. And then in the next hearing, I got some paperwork and they're stating in there that's what they want to do. And they said they have no services for me to complete in Rapid City. So they don't have anything for me to accomplish, although I have done the 24/7, the UA testing. I've done that. I've done the mental health, which they had stated in the paper they wanted. They didn't order it. I've done it.
You know, did you report this to HHS and Justice Department?
What I reported to them was the basics of it says violation at this time, a different date. So I wrote the violations of the date that I feel that I was discriminated against.
Well, let me tell you this. I think you should specifically state these things in your complaint.
Uh-huh.
Now, I'm no lawyer in South Dakota, but from just a federal civil rights point of view, in my humble opinion, that's illegal. And if you don't have the kids, they don't control who you can have in your house. There's no,
Mhm.
like, unless the judge said it, you know, if the judge said it, you got to obey it. But if the judge didn't say it, what the hell are they talking about?
Mhm.
Why do they even care if somebody's over your house?
Yeah. They're saying my adult children come to my home and the children are scared of them. Oh, I'm on UAs because my adult children were convicted of a drug offense or alcohol offense. Not necessarily me, it's my children.
Hmm.
I feel like I'm being held responsible for their choices in their life. They don't live with me. They do their own thing, but they have me on random UAs because my kids were convicted of that before.
I, I don't know if that's a reason. That
Yeah.
seems like a weird reason. But if they have allegations, if they made allegations that are viable that you use drugs,
Mhm.
then the UAs are called for. But
Mhm.
because your kids were using
Yeah.
drugs,
Hmm.
that is, in my opinion, way out of line. And you
Yeah.
need to be when you complain to HHS and Civil Rights or Justice Department, you need to tell them specifically, hey, these are the ways my rights have been violated, and then give them exact examples, provide copies of what
Okay.
you have.
Hmm.
I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me, that is evidence of a social worker out of control. She puts it in writing that she's violating your civil rights.
Hmm.
Most of the social workers that violate your civil rights, they do it undercover, like they can deny it later.
Hmm. And
So,
this was the director of child protection here in Rapid City that had told me that that's why I'm on UAs is because of my kids.
well, they're going to be surprised, and the judge will be surprised because you're passing all your UAs.
Hmm.
Now what?
At one time, I used hand sanitizer before I went to one of my UAs, and it showed up that the alcohol had showed up in one of my tests.
Right. But here's the thing. Again, I'm not a South Dakota attorney, but alcohol is legal, isn't it?
It is. Mm-hmm.
Right. UAs are supposed to determine illegal use and substance. And if you had alcohol in your system, what percentage was it? Does it equivalent to half a drink, a quart of alcohol? You know,
Yeah.
you get the
Yeah.
point?
Yeah.
And I don't know if marijuana is legal in your state, but it's legal in California.
Yeah.
So
It's
now,
not.
yeah, but now I'm getting those situations where the social worker says, "Well, your client tested positive for marijuana," and what does that
Mm-hmm.
mean? It's legal.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like had a glass of wine or a shot of tequila. It's legal. The real question is it such a level that it would prohibit me from taking care of the kids safely?
Mm-hmm.
Not whether I used it or not.
Yeah. I have.
So,
I have. Like I said, everything's in an email, and I don't talk to them.
right,
And since I'm not talking to them, I guess I'm non-compliant with them.
right. That they're going to use that against you.
Yes.
They're going to use that against you. But if you can convince the judge one of the reasons why you do that is because they lied, cheat, and steal,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the judge will say, okay, and you have evidence of this kind of crap happening
Mm-hmm.
to you,
Yes.
not only now, but in the past.
Mm-hmm.
In the past. Here's the thing, and I'm just going to be honest with you about this. A lot of social workers feel they can do whatever the F they want
Mm-hmm.
because they can't be sued. That's what they think. The fact is, they can be sued. It's just harder to do
Yeah.
it. And what happens is, and what I think is happening with your social workers is they've skated all this time. They haven't been held accountable. So they get a little bit sloppier and sloppier as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think now is the time. I think now is the time for you to do something about it.
Yes.
And by that, I mean, get some, great legal talent that can
Mm-hmm.
go in and do something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Sonia. Again, thank you. You have a good Sunday. Um, and I hope everything turns out well with you. Don't forget to contact me, okay?
Okay.
Bottom right hand corner is my office number.
Mm-hmm.
Contact me and we'll chat some more off the air and find
Okay.
out because I'm really, really interested. And the other thing is, you've come to me at a great time. A lot of people this happens to, they come to me 2 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that. They're shocked, they're depressed, the social workers just held them down and, you know, everything. But you are coming to me now and you're a
Mm-hmm.
fighter. And that's what you need. need
Mhm.
quick action. Okay,
Yes.
Sonia, hope to be hearing from you. Everyone, have a good Sunday, and
Thank you.
we'll see you tomorrow morning at not tomorrow morning. We'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for our regular show. Good night, all, or good
Thank
day,
you.
all. Bye bye.